Almost exactly 8 years ago, I got my first IUD, and today I'm getting it replaced. 8 years. Wonder why. Buckle up, because this is going to be a medical, legal, and history lesson all rolled into one adventure, because yes, you're coming with me. IUDs, or intrauterine devices, are the little things that look like Tesla logos that you put in your uterus to create an inhospitable environment to prevent any unwanted stowaways. Tesla, the world's #1 birth control. There are a couple of types, but the thing that's really cool about them is that once you get them inserted, they're good for years. Different types have different longevities, and I have the copper one, but there is a hormonal one. The copper one has a lifespan of about 10 years. Though technically studies show that there are no reported adverse effects if you keep it in longer than that. Technically I have a couple more years on this one, but I'm just getting it replaced now for obvious reasons. So step one, I am wearing comfy clothes because don't believe the people when they say that it doesn't hurt. It does. Everyone's experience is different, I'm sure. For me, it hurt. And I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from getting this. In fact, I'm trying to encourage you, but I'm not gonna lie to you about it. The procedure itself does hurt, but it's very, very quick. The real pain for me was like the day or so following it. I forget how long it took, but basically it's like really, really bad cramps for me. Some people report mild to no cramps. Last year, I was told to take ibuprofen like an hour before my appointment. I was not told to do that this year, so I'm not going to. I'm gonna bring some with me just in case, on the off chance that they will offer me something better. But I'm sure that you will be completely unsurprised to hear that most doctors absolutely do not. Fun fact, in other countries, it's common to use misoprostol because that softens things up down there. Yes, that's the thing they're trying to ban. Speaking of which, a few states have weighed whether or not to ban IUDs outright, but none have done so yet. That said, don't count on that lasting much longer. The Supreme Court did rule that insurance doesn't have to cover them, so unfortunately that's entirely dependent on who your provider is. There are, however, some programs that help cover costs for people in need. IUDs have actually been available in some form or another for over 100 years. The first one documented in 1909. The earliest versions were made of things like silkworm guts, so they had their own set of issues. By the 1920s, a German scientist named Ernst Grafenberg developed a much better version. His G name, by the way, lending itself to a certain spot, which naturally led to an increase in popularity. That is, of course, until the 1940s, when a certain regime started limiting family planning, if you catch my drift. This is how it happens, people. We're gonna scoot over. I probably won't be able to film inside the clinic for safety reasons. Good news. The hormonal IUD is now approved for 8 years and the copper one for 12. I just got out, everything went great. I'm now gonna pick up a burrito. It didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Definitely cramped worse than that before. The doctor was so sweet. Check it out. They gave me a heating pad for my frigid womb. I'll tell you one, baby, I'm ready for this food, baby. I want you in my womb, man. It's been a couple hours. I'm at my boy's. He's been taking care of me. My tummy hurts, but I think it might have just been the burrito. To be completely honest with you guys. But let me tell you more about the IUD while Boyf goes and picks up my dog. In the 50s and 60s, IUDs became really popular, especially with the advent of plastic, which improved the technology quite a bit. To the point where in the 70s, 10% of women who were using some sort of method were using IUDs, but that dropped to 1% by the 1990s, which is why fewer people know about IUDs today, despite it being the most effective method on the market. And that's for two very big reasons. Number one, the pill became more readily available to single women and they didn't need permission from their husbands anymore. And number two, the Dalkon Shield. The Dalkon Shield you may have heard of because it is actually like an important piece of history. It was a very poorly designed IUD out in the 70s because it was designed and released to market back in the days before the FDA regulated devices. Interestingly enough, the Dalkon Shield is exactly why the FDA now regulates devices, because that's what regulations are for, keeping us alive. In fact, investigation later revealed that the company responsible for the Dalkon Shield knew that it could be dangerous before bringing it to market. Anyway, there has been a resurgence in the 2000s with a couple new versions, which have gone through rigorous testing and are increasingly proving themselves as having longer and longer lifespans. They're literally only becoming more trustworthy. There's currently two basic types, hormonal, and copper. Most people, I believe, prefer hormonal. I prefer copper. Hormonal is said to have like fewer physical side effects. Copper more typically can result in more cramping, spotting, heavier flow, and whatnot. Personally, I don't mess with hormones because hormones really mess with me. So I just prefer to risk physical side effects versus psychological ones. But both of them are pretty great. Both care providers that I spoke to today had IUDs as well. And we all agree. I know that the IUD isn't for everyone, but it is pretty phenomenal. Not only is it the most effective method on the market, there's no daily or monthly or any sort of upkeep to it. Once it's in until you want to take it out. 99% of the time. Of course, things can always happen, but it's very, very rare. So again, I just got my new copper one and it's good for 12 years, which will probably get extended while it's in me, which is exactly what happened this time. I first got this in, I believe it was good for 7 years, and then research has continuously proven that it's good for longer and longer. So then they changed it to 10 years and now it's up to 12 years. So by the time 12 years have passed, if I still have it in me, it might be good for 15 or 20. As for the pain, so far I think it was more painful last time. The procedure itself feels like pretty bad cramps for a couple of seconds. Last time I had like a day or two of cramps, which were really the worst part of it. But this time it seems like my worst side effect is a burrito bellyache, which is a very real risk because a burrito afterwards is mandatory.